newsletter that Doug's prepared. If you don't have the newsletter, you can sign up for that at huntingfishing.com and get the weekly newsletter. Always some interesting stuff in there. Starting off this week, Doug, I really appreciate this one. 4 things you need to know about survival myths that could get you killed. Ooh.
Yep.
That sounds pretty heavy duty. What are they focusing on here?
Well, the 4 things, I'll just give you the topics. Myth 1 is you can live solely off natural survival foods. Yes, no. If you've not been out in the woods very much, you aren't going to survive eating off the land because you don't know what you're looking for. Number 2, you can complete survival projects at a normal pace. Now, the myth here lies in the lack of understanding we have regarding the amount of time it takes to gather supplies, catch and hunt food, cleaning your food, cutting wood, etc. There's a lot of time involved. Most people don't understand that. Number 3, if you kill a big game animal, you're set for food. That's bogus. Okay? You can still starve to death because your body can't digest all of that protein without fat.
Yeah.
Got to be careful here.
Absolutely.
And myth number 4 is practicing survival skills is the same as practicing survival. This is just a given. The myth here is assuming that practicing survival and bushcraft skills is good enough to prepare for a real survival situation. But the truth is that this will not get you very far. Unless you've been out and done some survival stuff on your own, being caught in a real-life situation can be rather scary. You're just lost.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the sum of that.
Yeah, there's quite a bit to be said about that. There's a lot of YouTube information out there. Obviously, reading and studying hard copies is, kind of thing of the past. Everybody's looking at YouTube, so you get a little bit of self-confidence on, well, I know how to build a fire. Okay, but practicing, you need to practice it, and you need to practice it out in the wild and not in your backyard or in a controlled environment, I would say. So.
Yeah, agreed. And I would be a good example of that because I've not been out in the woods very much, and if I got stuck somewhere, although my mind says one thing, I may be doing it wrong. I think I could survive, but then hey, I don't know. Noted in our Around the Nation segment, the only thing I'll note here is that, and I mentioned this on the radio show, is that in Montana, the wolf harvest is at 166 as of the 21st. That would have been 2 days ago.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, interesting. We briefly talked about that as well. When we're talking about species that are on the endangered species list, wolves have been doing pretty good in our country right now. So,
well, they were taken off, and in the pro wolfers are still beating their endangered species profile for these guys. They have a healthy breeding population, so they need to be managed. They need to be managed by the state, and what I mean by managed is there needs to be a controlled hunting season for them. I get it.
Yeah.
Any more, along the same lines, is there any more news of the grizzlies being removed from the endangered species list in the Yellowstone?
I have not seen anything on that yet. I pay attention to, I go out to all these websites. I get updates through, emails, etc., which is where I first picked up on this. But I've not seen anything since.
Okay.
So
all right.
When we do, we'll report back on that. Hey, up in New Hampshire, there was an ice fisherman that caught a state record cusk. I don't know what a cusk is, but if you get the newsletter, you can see a picture of this puppy. Interesting. 3 foot long, weighed 12 pounds, 8.48 ounces. Big fish. I don't know anything about them. Never seen them before.
I
So, hey,
believe they are related to the burbot family, and
yeah, they look. It looks like a burbot. Yes, yes. And maybe it tastes like lobster. I don't know. So,
well,
don't have a clue there.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Let's move on to Texas. A couple of guys down there caught some incredibly largemouth. One was 14.48 and the other was 14.92 pounds.
Wow.
Um, they were both caught in a lake called O.H. Ivy or something of that nature. So I'm not familiar with the lake, but these guys caught some nice bass there. Holy smokes! Next on the list, and this is one we didn't talk about on the show, but I caught an article about how to catch live bait for saltwater fishing. You probably have some good input on something like this, but this article covers the types of live saltwater bait, ways to catch them, choosing the bait based on species, and how to maintain and keep your live bait alive. So, it was
Yeah,
a good article. I learned a lot from it.
yeah. It looks like we the type of stuff that I do. Number one, we don't go out and try to catch shrimp on the Pacific side. The
Yeah.
eels, that's more up north. Crabs, pretty much over on the East Coast thing. The squid, now on the other hand, that's a West Coast thing.
Uh,
And the
anyway, I mean,
huh?
when you go out with Captain Bill, what is your choice of live bait there?
We go to the bait receiver and get bait. We don't
Oh,
have to go out. They call it making bait. We don't have to make
uh,
bait. We go get 20 or 30 scoops, depending on how many anglers there are. And
is
generally,
that over? Is that
generally
over
it's
at H&M Landing?
yeah, it's Abraham
Okay.
bait receiver. It's been there forever, but they keep it stocked fresh with anchovies and sardines. Once in a
Uh-huh.
while, they'll have a couple of mackerels, but if we do go make bait, depending on the seasonal migratory pelagics coming in, we'll go out and catch mackerel, and that's done similarly on the rig that they have illustrated in that article.
Mm-hmm. Cool, cool. Uh, Next on our list here is under legislation. All right, we had the U.S. House Committee on Natural Resources voted in favor of passing the Recovering America's Wildlife Act, H.R. 2773, and it is moving to the next step for passage. This was put together by Debbie Dingell and Jeff Fortenberry, one Democrat and the other one a Republican. So we got some bipartisan thing going on here. But the bill would dedicate $1.3 billion annually to state fish and wildlife agencies to implement their science-based wildlife action plans, and another $97.5 million for tribal fish wildlife managers to conserve fish and wildlife.
Okay, so my take on this is the $1.3 billion to the wildlife agencies to implement their science-based wildlife action plans is their fiduciary
Mm-hmm.
responsibility that they should be doing to begin with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
So, as far as I'm concerned right now, and I'm going to exercise my right to remain silent for the tribal nations that are a ward of the government through the Bureau of
Mm-hmm.
Indian Affairs and some of the other monies that they get to manage wildlife and waters on their land. They need to be doing that to begin with. To begin with. to begin with. I'm going to repeat it because it bears repeating. They should be doing this to begin with. Why do we have this other feel-good bill brought forth by a Democrat?
Yep, that's a good point, Don.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
This is one of the problems that we have across the board with the agencies not doing what they're supposed to be doing to begin with. All right. So.
All right.
Thank you for that.
No problem. Okay, over in the United Kingdom area, the waters around that particular country, there was a huge fish. I don't know how big this fish was, but at any rate, the whole point of they really tagged the first bluefin in these waters. Now, I really don't know that I understand what that means unless they never had bluefin around that area.
Well,
now all of a sudden they're up there.
Let me see if I can clarify this. They have the bluefins wander around over there, and this is a new state-of-the-art acoustic tracking tag for these pelagics. So, it's just a matter of catching these guys and tracking their movement and seeing where they go. It's like the albacore. There's little or no information on albacore. They're very elusive. The bluefins are pretty elusive as well. They boom in and out of areas, and they show up over here, but they're gone, and they don't know where they go, and then they magically appear over off of the UK. So. It's going to help figure these guys out. It's like the albacore. We haven't seen albacore on the West Coast for a decade, let's say. They'll come in, and depending on the water temperature, the currents, El Nino, La Nina, so on and so forth, they may move in where you can catch them. They bypass San Diego. They show up in Oregon, and they disappear, and the next thing we know about them is they make a fatal mistake and pop their noses up in Japan.
Yeah.
If you're an albacore, you're going to become sushiized.
Got it.
So anyway, there was 30 of these guys tagged, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see the management. There's a huge movement on managing the bluefin over off the East Coast. They are endangered just because of their popularity worldwide, and the species does need to be managed. And this is one more valiant effort to try to manage these guys. So okay, good news.
Yeah, I just didn't know they were up in that area. I knew they were on the East Coast, basically, of the U.S., but I didn't know they went that far. That's all.
Well, they'll come in around. They make a swing coming from the south in around the Carolinas and Hatteras, and then they work their way up into Maine, Massachusetts, and then off they go, and then they show up over on the other side of life, and they just make a big circle.
Got it. All right. Down in New York, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation announced the start of construction on a nearly $1 million fish passage through the Woodhull Dam on the Little River. Now, this is essential to restoring critical spawning and mature habitat for river herring and American eel, and et cetera, et cetera. But what I saw kind of interesting about this is an ongoing thing across our country where environmentalists and fish and game, et cetera, are realizing that all these dams are just killing these migration during a spawn. So this is one more effort to open that water for spawning. So that's good. That's good.
Yeah. Yes. It is. Okay.
Yeah. Up in Idaho, there were 5 elk that died in the Wood River Valley area. that have been eating a plant called a yew, a Y-E-W. Not familiar with the plant, but it is toxic, along with several other plants that these elk eat. Why we have them, that's only God only knows that situation. But they're just making this known for residents and ranchers, et cetera, to kind of remove all these kind of plants from their property. At any rate, sad news, but that's wildlife. That's game and fish, you know?
Well,
That's the way it goes.
it seems to me that this may be you as a tree, for one thing. And if I'm not mistaken, it's found in
Well, it looks like a bush.
it's found in southern England, and it is extremely toxic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it occurs to me, I'll do some more research on this, just as a point of interest. They are toxic, but I don't think they belong up there, Doug.
I don't, Don, this is out of Idaho. I don't know how far north or south these plants go. You're right. We ought to research this a little bit more.
Yeah, if it's the same thing, yeah, it looks like the leaves the leaves are the same configuration. So they wow, they make a pretty good sized tree, and they are native to southern England. So this is another case of an invasive species. How did it get here? How long has it been on the landscape? And what is it? Because that picture you have in the newsletter, that's going to turn into a tree. That's not just a weed.
Well, and I don't doubt that. It just, from my perspective, looked like a bush, but it could be just the start of a tree, for all I know.
And what they're saying, residents should inspect the landscape around their homes. I would assume the ranching community is going to do the same thing, because they're, if the elk are going to try to eat it, the livestock that these ranchers are trying to raise are going to try to eat it.
Sure.
And anybody that eats it, guess what? You're going to go the way the elk did.
Yep.
So that's and if let's see, what are they suggesting? I guess pull it up and wrap it in burlap and properly dispose of it. So, okay, that's something else to watch.
And lastly on the list today is Henry's come out with two new products called the Long Ranger Express.
Woohoo!
One is in a 410 bore, and the other is in a 223 556. I'm particularly interested in it because I already have some Henrys. I'm anxious to see what this 410 Henry looks like, feels like, and et cetera. I'm going to try and get somebody to get that in the stores so I can look at it.
Yeah. Do you know what the price point is on them?
I do not, and the article itself doesn't say so. I went out to their website, and they don't even have these on their website yet. This is a very new product, so.
Okay. Here. Hang on just a second. I think I found one. Here's the MSR on the 223, which is the lever action, and it's $1,235, and the other one appears to be about $1,132. Of course, that's plus tax, shipping, and prep, and all that other kind of stuff.
Oh yeah. Interesting. And when I first looked at it, the picture I have on there looks like it's just got a hand grip with the lever action.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm thinking, how do you fire this thing without losing control?
Doug, it's right up there. It's going to be very well behaved. I've got a Taurus.
I'm sure it will be.
A Taurus with the 410 45 long Colt, and the Judge, in a 6-inch barrel and pulling the trigger on a 410 piece of cake. Very well behaved.
Yeah.
So
Oh, yeah. My 45 long Colt Henry is that way. It's
okay.
a beautiful gun to shoot. Well, that's it, Don.
Well, that's a good newsletter, guys. Sign up for it. Take a look at all the stuff that Doug's talking about, and it's always interesting to see what he comes up with every Friday, Saturday morning. So that's it for us, huntingfishing.com.